bubbles. The problem with bubbles, though, is bubbles pop. They're pretty fragile. Now you might ask, what do bubbles have to do with chapter 11 of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? That's probably a decent question. And I'm going to show you, while I tell you, how to string a longbow. And we'll talk a little bit about the longbow in a minute. But, you know, in chapter 11, we deal with something that's similar to bubbles. I'm talking about illusions. Now, you might ask, what's an illusion? Well, an illusion is something you think is true, but it really isn't. That could be anything from, I think I did well on that test, and you find out you flunked it, to, I cleaned my room, and your mother comes in and says, putting things under the table is not cleaning your room, and you have everything under the bed and in the closet, that's not cleaning your room. Your illusions shatter. Well, what happens when illusions shatter? Well, we have two characters today in our story who had illusions. First, it was the White Witch. Now, the White Witch is not a nice character, and she had the illusion that she was Queen of Narnia. And as Queen of Narnia, she had all power and control. It was never winter, and it was always winter and never Christmas. Well, she discovered, much to her surprise, that winter melted away, and Christmas she couldn't stop from coming. Because she was not the Queen of Narnia, Aslan was the king. Now, the second person with an illusion was Edmund. And Edmund thought, the White Witch is a good person. Yes, she's a little bit hard, but I'm sure it's only because people give her trouble. But she's a good person. She's going to make me king, and I will have power, and I will have worth. And finally, Peter, I will be in control of Peter, and I will tell him what to do and where to go. And if you've ever had a big brother or a big sister, you can understand Edmund a little bit. Well, both of them had their illusions shattered. And you might say, okay, so? And they responded very differently. The White Witch, when her illusion shattered, what she did was, she got extremely angry. And she just was ready to kill anything that reminded her that her illusions were shattered. Edmund, on the other hand, when he realized what reality was, he felt bad. Not only was he now in danger and miserable, but he put his own brother and sisters in danger, and perhaps Narnia as well. Now, we have something similar in this world. It's not just in Narnia. In John 3:16, it's a verse everybody knows, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And you say, whoa, that sounds great. All you've got to do is believe. Why isn't everybody a Christian? Well, it's because you have to feel you need Christ. And some of the illusions we have in this world are, we don't need Christ, we're good enough. We're good enough for God to accept us. We don't need God's help. And so, there's some people that, when they hear about Christ, they respond like the White Witch. Later in chapter 3, it says, the reason that people don't accept Christ is because they live in darkness and they do not want the light because the light shows them that really they're wrong. People don't like being wrong. And so they'll respond and say, I'm not wrong. That's wrong. I don't need Jesus. And off they go. Now, is everybody going to stay in the darkness? No. The end of these verses say, but there are those like Edmund, who they see at the light, they come into the light, and they recognize that their deeds are wrong. They're evil. And so we leave the end of this chapter where the White Witch is ready to kill anyone who stands in her way. And Edmund is suddenly realizing that the light and Spring and Aslan, they're the reality. They're the good things. And he thinks, I need help. We're coming up to Easter. So, what are you like? The White Witch or Edmund? Do you see yourself as, I'm okay, nothing wrong with me, don't need Jesus? Or are you like Edmund and say, instead, oh my gosh, what did I do? I need help. Well, stay tuned next week. We're going to see what happens with the White Witch, Edmund, and Aslan. But in the meantime, I have a problem. I have a balloon on top of my ceiling, and I'm going to do something that no one should do. Oh, that's not one. I need an arrow. What I wanted to do is I want to try to shoot a balloon from the top of my room. Now, okay, you saw me go and I strung a longbow. Now you can ask me, why do you not keep the longbow strung? Well, it's because if you do that, this will warp the wood and you won't have a really tight string anymore. It'll just warp the wood. So you have to leave a longbow unstrung. Now when we put an arrow here, you've got a little rest for the arrow. This is called knocking an arrow, not notching an arrow, knocking an arrow. Now this arrow does not have a point, so hopefully I'm not going to hurt my ceiling because my husband doesn't know I'm doing this. However, don't do this at home. Okay, I'm going to go. I didn't get the balloon, but I think I left a hole in the ceiling. But I didn't leave the arrow in the ceiling. So, like I said, don't do this at home. Next week, we're going to try a boomerang. In the meantime, I think I'm going to try the balloon again. Bye. Because I'm thinking, don't pull back. Okay, well, I don't see that hole. That's good. Third time a charm. Try it. Ain't nothing wrong. Okay, never shoot an arrow. Actually, the one in the ceiling, I can tell. But it's kind of a little bit like Sherlock Holmes shooting in his apartment. No. Okay, third time is not a charm. I didn't do it. I am very sad. But I only left one mark, so yay! Maybe my husband won't notice.